What does it take to get into an elite business school? MBA Crystal Ball is a boutique admissions consulting firm. Each year, we help a select few applicants get into the world's best business schools. Here's one of our success stories to inspire and educate.
Hello and welcome to MBA Crystal Ball. Today we have with us someone who has consistently defined the norms and never gives up. It is this resilience that has gotten Rishika Chatterjee multiple admits from top international MBA colleges. We'll let her tell her story. Welcome, Rishika.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. To begin with, Rishika, can you tell us a little about yourself, your background?
Yeah, sure. I have done basically my bachelor's in economics with a minor in statistics and mathematics from St. Xavier's College, Calcutta. My father is a first generation entrepreneur where he sort of his entire journey of what he overcame, the hurdles he overcame has been a huge factor in my life growing up. I have worked for the last 4 years of my life. I also have a master's degree from Sciences Po Paris in economics and business. So that's like a small little nutshell about me.
Thanks. Yeah, that helps. So, since you already had a master's, what inspired your decision to pursue an MBA? Also because you had a pretty interesting career as well. If you could give throw some light on that as well.
Yeah, sure. So after I graduated from St. Xavier's in economics, I went on to do my first job right out of college. I was working with Deloitte, Haskins and Sells LLP in Calcutta itself as in tax transfer pricing. I worked there only for a year. It was majorly to understand how the corporate world works, what is it that it entails, basics of Excel, etc., etc. And I realized that this was not I didn't want to sit behind a computer and just do Excel models, financial models all day. And that is what basically drove me to go into my master's degree, which is I had a senior from college who went there and he really enjoyed his time. And France is actually very conducive for students. I was fortunate enough to get the Charpak AME scholarship. So putting all of that together, I sort of went with Sciences Po Paris. I was unfortunately, whatever, the COVID batch. So within 2 semesters, I had to sort of come back and I did the rest of the semesters online. But I actually managed to get an internship in Paris. I was working with this company called Forte Power. So I went back in 2021. While I was working with Forte Power, it's a lithium-ion battery manufacturing company. I was basically a sustainability analyst, but I sort of offered to be the liaison officer when they were setting up a factory in India. That is where I liaisoned with Invest India counterpart, and I got to know of Invest India and the kind of work that they do. And I had always been interested in entrepreneurship because of my father's background, and I feel that was a good sort of segue for me to go into Startup India, where I have been for the last 3 years. Coming back to the question of why I wanted to do an MBA, there are 2 points. The first one is, of course, the fact that I was a COVID batch and I didn't really get, the exposure, the networking. I feel like we were robbed of it. So that is one reason I really wanted to go out there and experience the actual culture and the networking of MBA. And the second thing, of course, I felt like I was that path in my career where I feel like I was ready for more responsibility, but I felt I lacked the foundational basics for it. And I feel like the MBA would sort of propel me towards that fact. And of course, I wanted to sort of understand more about how businesses work, how small businesses scale, etc. I felt like I was a part of the government and the policy making for a long time. Now I wanted to understand the business aspect of it.
Very cool. So before we move on, you mentioned that you went on a scholarship for the masters. So, how did you kind of go about finding what scholarship? How much was it worth? If you could shed some light on that.
Yes. So Charpak scholarship is 2 types. One is where they give you the stipend of 700 euros monthly. Unfortunately, I did not qualify for that. I got the other one. There are 2 types. I don't know if they're still doing it, but Charpak is very common for students who are going to France. It's a France-based scholarship. Barring that, there were also others like Eiffel Excellence. But the scholarship that I got covered my fees to and from Paris. And I did not have to pay for insurance, did not have to pay for visa. And it also helped me get India House, basically where I was in Paris. So Sciences Po is basically like London School of Economics, where they don't have one single building. They have buildings across the main city. So in Paris also, there's this place called Cité Universitaire de Paris, which is basically where all the masters and PhD students stay. And each government has a house there. So there's a India House, there's a Korea House, etc., etc. And these are subsidized and they are by the government of India. So this scholarship sort of helped me get a room there, and I could be a part of the Cité community, which in itself was a huge conundrum of really amazing master students from all over the world.
Okay, that's interesting. And this was France government sponsored scholarship or an Indian government?
No, Indian government. It's Indian government.
Okay.
Yes.
And, I mean, there was like a selection process, there was an application process.
Yes. So you have to basically apply, and then it's just a list that comes out. So the stipend one is very, very selective. Only about like, I don't know, top 5% get it, and then there's the other one which I got, where like the top 10% or 15% get it.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so coming to your MBA journey. So, step 0 is for most people the test. So how did you decide between GMAT, GRE? Which one did you zero in on? Why did you do that?
Initially, I thought I would take the GMAT because, all of these things people say that GMAT is, of course, the schools prefer GMAT over GRE. But I realized it's all false. It's not true. I did take the GMAT, but by the time I took the exam, we had the focus edition only. The old edition was not present anymore. And I realized I was really lagging behind in data insights. Like, it was so much text for me. I was having trouble sort of doing it. And I took 2 exams. I did not do well in them. And all of this was last year. So I decided, because I'd already taken GRE before and I had scored like a 320, I think it was like in 2018, I had taken it. So I had scored a 320 then with just I had applied to the other schools, to Sciences Po and everything else. So I decided let's not try. Let's go into something that I know already. So I started studying for GRE, and I realized there's a huge difference because last time I was already in the studying mode. I was already in college. I did not have a job then, so I had more time and patience to actually go through everything. Whereas now I had work. I was coming home at like 7:38 in the night. So I tried to sort of put my mind to ease. I was transparent with my managers and I told them that if you could, lay off of me a little for like a month and let me just really grind down and concentrate. And quant, I was fine with. I got a 165 on quant. The verbal is what was messing with my head. That even though I read a lot, I'm an avid reader. The words were so Victorian and the words were just so random, they would not come up, like especially. And that's when I realized that the whole trick to GRE verbal, it's not to get the words, it's to get the rest of it, the grammatical, the reading comprehension. That's where you have to build your, expertise. But anyway, I tried my best and I got a score of 323 with 165 quant and 158 verbal. One trick that really helped me with respect to verbal was that I used to write down the words and associate them with day-to-day meanings in my life. So, for example, there was this word called querulous, which means a person who is habitually complaining. So I thought of this one person who I know who constantly does that. I was like, okay, this person is querulous. So, yeah. So I feel that really helped me a little bit. I didn't know if I should retake it. And, that's where MCB came in. And they told me that, I could spend 2 more months and leave just 15 days to do my application, or I could actually just sit down with the score I had and do my best. And that's what I decided on.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, so your MBA application journey actually started a year before you applied, and things didn't turn out well. Talk us through about that journey.
Yes. So I had applied last year to about 5 or 6 schools. I don't remember exactly. Like most of it was Stark, Darden, Ross, Columbia, and Yale. These 5 schools I had applied to last year, and unfortunately, I did not get through. I was rejected from all of them, and I only had an interview at Tuck. I had applied round 2 last year, and I applied. Okay, maybe I would say it was a little bit of overconfidence because I'd already taken GRE before. I'd already done a master's degree before. I thought this would be a cakewalk and I would easily sail through, but that was not to happen. I took my GMAT. The score was very modest. I actually applied with GMAT waivers in some of the school. I got the waiver, but it didn't really translate into an interview or into an admit. And also I finished up, I worked with Startup India, right? So I was doing this huge, one of the best projects I've done in my life, which was establishing the Startup 20 engagement group under India's G20 presidency. So it was a huge project that we did, and we ended up establishing it. Like right now, it is a part of the total engagement groups of G20. Right now, India is the forebearer of that. So I had just done that. And then I thought, okay, maybe 1 month I will finish, I will do everything. And then I applied in a hurry. I did not have my story straight. It was a very, not something in depth, not something that I had retrospected and thought. And that did not work out well for me, because I feel like that was evident. The lack of preparation was evident in my application, and it was evident in my interview. So it did not work out very well for me, but it's okay. I decided, let bygones be bygones. I will try again, because I used to read success stories of people who get into their dream colleges in the second or third try. So I thought, and I thought that's when I realized that maybe I needed a consultant. I couldn't do this by myself. And yeah, that's how it's been.
Right, right. And you did face challenges while you were approaching consultants. How did you do that discovery process? How did you land up, with MCB?
Yeah. So I actually reached out to a couple of successful admits from from my circle, and I asked them that, who did you work with? Who did you work with? I did some searching on, the answer to all of millennial questions. I went to Reddit, and I tried to look for things there, and I found two, three consultants I was speaking to, but I realized the major challenge that I faced with them was the low GRE score, the fact that I come from an overrepresented minority, which is Indians, and the fact that I would be a reapplicant to most of these schools. So they did not want to take a bet on me because I was not a sure shot candidate. In their eyes, there was they told me to aim for schools which were really low, like T20, T25, or they were just not very interested in hearing my story, or wanted to go with people who were actually much more sure shot, or would keep asking me to retake the GRE, which I feel like I did not have time for. So that was the initial tug of war. And then, of course, I spoke to MCB, and the fact that what I really, really liked initially was, number one, there was no sugarcoating of anything. They told me that these were my reaches, these were my this is my reach, this is my target, this is my safety. So I really like that clear demarcation between schools, and the fact that they agreed to hear my story out, see how I place on paper as a candidate, and I'm not just a number, I'm not just 323, I have a story behind it. So that's where it all really started with me, for me.
And tell us which consultant at MBA Crystal Ball you worked with. How was the experience? Any kind of things that you still remember? Any aha moments you may have had?
Yeah. So I worked with Avinash. I remember the first call that I had with him, it went on for almost an hour and 15 minutes, because I was just trying to understand how to approach this. I did not want to begin this journey with the baggage of failure from before. And he was completely, he didn't even ask me about my previous applications. He didn't even ask me what I did before this. He wanted to just know my story, which really, really helped me. The fact that I actually rehashed and retrospected on my journey from when I started my undergrad, how I grew up, what I did after that, etc., to where I'm right now, and how this connects to MBA. It really helped me. Secondly, the fact that there were no sample essays shared, there were no templates, because that really, I remember he just told me that there were like 4 or 5 questions which sort of tried to get an idea of how I was as a person and what my goals were. And he just told me, just write. Doesn't matter about the grammar, doesn't matter how many pages long it is, just keep writing. And that's what I did. I just wrote for 2 days straight, and I figured that after the end of everything, he told me that whatever MBA questions are thrown at you, the answers will come out of this one, this huge draft. And I feel that really helped. And inadvertently, while I was doing this, I feel I was also preparing for hopefully whatever interviews would come in, because I had my story straight in my head about what I wanted to do. So it was a great experience. It really, really made me retrospect on why I wanted to do what I wanted to do and how I would do it.
Yeah, it's a very cathartic process for many. And I think, if you don't do that, like you said, it usually does not lead to the right, authentic, applications. So, where all did you apply to? Where all did you interview?
Yeah, so I applied to Dartmouth. I applied to Duke Fuqua. I applied to Yale, which I did not get through, Tepper, Georgetown, and MIT. These were my schools. So out of this, I got interview invites from, and Darden. I got interview invites from Darden, Duke, Tuck, Tepper, and MIT, and Georgetown. I got 6 interview invites. The Georgetown interview, unfortunately, I couldn't attend because I had a personal emergency at home. So it was, a relative passed away. So it was really like out of the moment. And for some reason I couldn't reschedule. But I did the interview for all of the others. And I managed to convert into admits with Darden, where I got offered a $50,000 scholarship with Forte Fellowship, and Duke Fuqua with $30,000 and Forte Fellowship. These 2 schools I converted. Tepper, I was waitlisted. MIT, I am still waitlisted. I'm still holding out hope. I hope it happens. But yeah, so this has been the overall process. I got a reject from Tuck, and it was sad, but it's okay. I mean, at this
No
point, I'm
regrets.
happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I shot I shot my goal, whatever I could.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell us about your process for interview preparation and any school, any question that kind of sticks out, if any.
Yeah, of course. Number one is that when I was interviewing, I actually, as I was saying, that I went back to that old draft and I read through the whole process. Um, that was number one. Number two, I would sort of 2 things I would do. Number one, research on what were the primary aspects of the school. So, for example, when I was researching for my Darden interview, which was also my first interview, I tried to see if there was some particular course that was sticking out for me, which I really wanted to talk about, and I would weave it into the conversation, some particular professor which I really wanted to, understand, talk about. For example, in Darden, there's this professor called Bobby Parmar, and he, the way he conducts classes is really famous. And I went to the LinkedIn and I tried to see how they do it and what the older alums are saying about the school. So I try to weave that into conversations. That's one. Number two is look up your interview on LinkedIn, see if you can find any common points, see how their journey has been like. And it just helps you understand the other person better, because at the end of the day, all of this is virtual. When it's physical, it's a different thing. Virtually, it's more difficult to understand tone. So if you can get an idea about the person, they seem less scary. So those are the 2 things I would do before interview. And of course, study more about the school. For example, for MIT interview, it was all about innovation. You have to understand. So MIT interviewers read your application before they interview you, whereas other schools do not. So you have to be very, very careful about what you've written so that you don't contradict what you're saying. So that is number one. Fuqua, I remember I interviewed with a second-year student. For Darden, it was an admission AdCom member. So for Fuqua, they really value fit and culture. So Team Fuqua is a huge thing. And I love the fact that during the whole conversation, he asked me that, how do you think Team Fuqua will, benefit from you coming here, not the other way around, which I think was a really googly question, if you ask me, because most of the time you're prepared with answers of like how I can contribute to these people. But they were like, what do you think, what are the resources that can help you become a better, a leader of tomorrow? So these are the couple of things. And I really like MIT interview has this, they ask for a data question, which is very interesting. And I sort of went back to all my work and I tried to relate it to my goals. It's pass, fail, reject, admit, it's a different thing. The interview experience in itself is wonderful. Yeah. It's really nice. You get to interact with so many different schools, so many different people. So yeah, it's fun.
And you're lucky to have so many interviews itself. So where are you headed, Rishika? And I think as a parting note, if there like one, maybe 3 tips you would give, especially to reapplicants, that'd be great.
So I am headed to Fuqua for the fall 2020 class of 2027. I'm super duper excited. I feel like the vibe of the place there's so much warmth in the admissions committee members, in the faculty, in the students. I really, really like it. For me, I feel like I thrive better when I'm in a cooperative team environment, and that's exactly what Fuqua is famous for. And my short-term goals are to go into consulting companies, investments, impact investments, especially. So I feel like Fuqua is a good choice for that. Plus, of course, the scholarship and the Forte fellowship really helps. So that's where I'm going. In terms of giving the tips, I don't know if I'm if
You weren't that
should.
bona fide.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to finally be on this side
Or
of the process, because
really,
it's been
yeah, yeah.
grueling. Okay, number one, I feel is please do not believe when they say there's a template. There is no template. It cannot be templatized. That's the whole point of the questions. That's the whole point of the interview, because they want to know you as a person. So be very, very sure about what you want to do, and be very sure about why the school and how the school is going to help you do that. So this what, why, how should be very, very, you should actually have it down pat. The second thing is, of course, getting the right help. I did not get the right help last time. I feel it may have impacted how I saw the process this time around, but I actually enjoyed the whole process. It was actually fun. And of course, when the interviews came in, when the results came in, it was really, the whole journey was worth it. So get the right help. Again, there is no one person. So if X helped your friend, doesn't mean that they will work out for you. So you make those choices best. You talk, you understand, get the help like I got from MCB and Avinash. And lastly, take this whole thing with a sense of humor, because it gets very grueling. It's you against the whole world at 4 a.m. writing and trying to understand why should the school take me. So you really need that sense of humor to sort of balance it out. So yeah, those are my 3 cents.
They're pretty good, especially the last one. I think that's super important. Thanks so much for sharing this, Rishika, and all the best. We'll kind of closely watch your career progression.
Thank you so much, Manish. Thank you. It was really nice to be a part of the MCB cohort, if I may call that myself. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
We hope you found this interview helpful. At MBA Crystal Ball, we've helped many applicants get into the elite business schools, often with scholarships. Reach out if you're looking for professional help with your applications. Good luck.